why don't we go ahead and get started? I've noticed the folks trickling in has lessened just a little bit, but I'll keep letting folks in as they come. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. My name is Maddie. My pronouns are they, them, and I am the operations manager at Earth Ministry, Washington Interfaith Power and Light. And it's really great to have you all here for our end of year gathering. And one thing that's really important to us that we do to start off all of our Earth Ministry WAIPL events is to start with a land acknowledgement. And that's what some of you all have been doing in the chat. But I want to share Earth Ministry's land acknowledgement as well. So Earth Ministry WAIPL works within the unceded territories of Northwest Native Nations. Our office is on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people past and present. Land acknowledgement is one way to resist erasure of Indigenous histories, as well as to honor tribes and the land itself. And again, I want to put into the chat that resource, the nativeland.ca website, where you can go and look up whose land you're on. I am going to pass it to my wonderful colleague, Lindsay, who's going to share an opening prayer for us.
Thank you, Maddie. Right, so I have a prayer from a wonderful book called To Bless the Space Between Us. And this is a prayer for the end of the year, fitting for our year-end gathering. The particular mind of the ocean, filling the coastline's longing with such brief harvest of elegant vanishing waves, is like the mind of time opening us shapes of days. As this year draws to its end, we give thanks for the gifts it brought and how they became inlaid within, where neither time nor tide can touch them. The days when the veil lifted and the soul could see delight, when a quiver caressed the heart and the sheer exuberance of being here. Surprises that came awake in forgotten corners of old fields where expectations seemed to have quenched. The slow, brooding times when all was awkward and the wave in the mind pierced every sore with salt. The darkened days that stopped the confidence of the dawn. Days when beloved faces shone brighter with light from beyond themselves, and from the granite of some secret sorrow, a stream of buried tears loosened. We bless this year for all we learned, for all we loved and lost, and for the quiet way it brought us nearer to our invisible destination. Thank you to John O'Donoghue for that blessing.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lindsay. That's great. I'm sure folks might want to see that prayer later. Now I want to make sure we have some staff that have come on since the last end of year gathering we did. So I want to make sure we all can say hello. I'm going to just call out to staff and hopefully they can just give a wave. First, I want to introduce our interim executive director, Nancy Nicholas. Give the folks a wave. She is here with us in this time of transition as we, and she'll talk a little more later about our process to hire a new permanent executive director. And then a lot of you probably know Jessica Zimmerly, our program and outreach director, who will be sharing a bit about our work this year. We also have Kia Colucci, who is our multi-faith outreach coordinator. And you heard from Lindsay, who is our program assistant this year through the Episcopal Service Corps at St. Mark's Cathedral. And then Dorothy Verna, who is a sister of St. Joseph of Peace, who's joining us through the Jesuit Volunteer Encore program this year to do outreach to Catholic communities. So we're really excited to have her here too. Jessica, I think I'm handing it over to you to share.
Thanks, Maddie. And I'll also just name, I see a lot of current and former board members in the house tonight as well. So if you want to give a wave, if you're serving or have served on the Earth Ministry WAIPL board, we are grateful for your leadership and ongoing support. Good evening, everybody. It is good to be together on our screens here. And it brings me joy to be reminded that folks are calling in from all across the region to spend this time together in reflection and celebration of all that we have accomplished together as the Earth Ministry WAIPL community. And, you know, as I was starting to kind of look back on this year, this strange year of pandemic ongoing, I just was like, wow, look at all of this. Look at what we did together. Look at how we adapted to this virtual platform and continued our advocacy and continued greening within congregational life and continue to connect with one another. So for me, it was a really joyful, heartwarming, hope-filled process putting this together for you all, which is just a brief slideshow of our seasons through this year. So I'm going to ask Lindsay to bring up our slides, and then I'm going to walk us through. And really, you know, I could spend a whole 2 hours talking about, or even more, about everything Earth Ministry has accomplished in the last year. But with this, we're just going to touch the surface of many of the great things that we've done together. And you can always check out our news section on our website to read more about our programs and successes and advocacy. So we will start thinking back to winter of 2021. Just about a year ago, we had realized, you know, that we are going to be in this COVID reality for the foreseeable future. And so how are we going to go about doing our advocacy as we looked towards the first ever virtual state legislative session? So our winter was one of a lot of advocacy with figuring that out, but then also participating. And I think we actually saw more robust participation because people did not have to get to Olympia to speak to their legislators. In the new format, people signed in to online hearings, people Zoomed in to testify. We have another picture, we didn't put it up here, but of one of our board members was able to bring her baby to testify, you know, things that you can't always do when things were all in person. So we were able to pass our top 2 priority bills through the state legislature, which is wonderful. And those were the HEAL Act, which codified environmental justice in state law, and it will now be applied to policies moving forward. And then the Clean Fuel Standard, which will address our transportation pollution, which is our largest polluting sector in Washington state. So those are really exciting wins that we work together on to elevate the importance of with our elected officials. Also in the winter, we did a lot of new program work with the Jewish community, which is really beautiful and exciting for me. We participated in the Big Bold Jewish Climate Fest. This was a national collaboration of events being held about the intersection of Judaism and climate action. Earth Ministry hosted 3 workshops and we co-sponsored 3 more. And then we just kept rolling from that with the launch of our Shemitah Project Northwest, which is in partnership with Congregation Beth Shalom in Seattle, bringing awareness and attention to the Shemitah year, or the year of Sabbath for the land, which has started this fall. And approaching that start of the Shemitah year, we did a whole distinguished speakers series with 6 speakers of national renown. All of these recordings are on our YouTube channel and website, so you can always go back and make notes of what you want to go back and watch. Finally, we welcomed our first regional affiliate in February. So the Bellingham Multi-Faith Network for Climate Justice has become officially a partner of Earth Ministry WAIPL, and we just so appreciate their partnership. They're doing really amazing work up in Whatcom County and mobilizing the faith community to collaborate towards stewardship and climate justice there. Okay, let's go towards spring. So spring came around and Earth Ministry did a lot of work really reflecting as a promise that was made in our strategic plan towards making a commitment towards justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And so we released our what we call our Jedi Statement. So that's short for those 4 values. And it's on our website. I really encourage everybody to take a look because we're committing to it as a whole community. Maybe one of the staff can drop the link in for me. And along with our statement is a set of commitments, which is really important to us because words are nice on paper, but really it matters when you put them into action. So one of the commitments that we started right away is paying real rent to the Duwamish tribe. And this is acknowledging them as first people of the land. I encourage everybody here to check out the Real Rent program and consider it for yourself and your family and also your house of worship. Also in the spring, we supported the Lummy Nation's Red Road to DC Totem Pole Journey. So this was kind of our return to in-person events, doing so in a safe and mindful manner, of course, but it was really exciting to step back in and do that in a way that supported Lummy Nation and their work to uphold the sacred sites both here and all across the country. So they journeyed to Washington, DC. Before they left, they had multiple stops. The faith community was involved at the stops in Seattle, Bellingham, Bellevue, and then also Lewiston, Clarkston for the lower Snake River. So you can read more about the Red Road Totem Pole Journey from Freddie Lane, who is a member of Lummy Nation and was on the journey, kind of the coordinator of it. And he wrote a piece for our Earth Letter, which will be coming out in just a few weeks here. So you can look for that in your inbox. We also hosted a Braiding Sweetgrass Earth Day gathering. This was a book that we chose to read together by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and we really reflected on how her wisdom could relate and be translated to our individual faith traditions and what that means in terms of our relationship with the land and reciprocity therein. And then of course, you know, we like to have fun around here at Earth Ministry WAIPL. So we had our trivia fundraiser in the spring, and we figured out how to have a good time asking questions, guess and answers, being on teams, and doing that all to support Earth Ministry's work moving forward. Okay, let's go to summer. Summer is usually kind of a slow time for us, but not so much this year. We had a lot of great opportunities arise. One was the opportunity to partner with Zero Waste Washington on an opportunity for congregations to receive mini grants to install water bottle refill stations. So this helped 9 congregations receive support for installing either a retrofit or a new station, so it's easy for folks to refill their water bottles and reduce plastic consumption in doing so. We also organized around the Clean Cars 2030 initiative. So this is a petition that we circulated to the governor asking for him to enact via executive order the target date of 2030 for all of the cars registered in Washington state to be electric. You might remember this is a bill we worked on as well. it got messy. It got vetoed because it was tied to something else that's extra messy. So at this point, we are going to see if it shows up again in the next coming legislative session, and we'll continue with pressure on the governor as well. But we thank St. Mark's Cathedral, who hosted the rally for clean cars in August, and it was on a one of those smoky Northwest days that are becoming too normal in our summers. So it was really a potent reminder of the need and the urgency for our advocacy. Earth Ministry staff also had the great joy of serving as summer faculty at Holden Village. So this is a remote camp in the Cascades, comes out of the Lutheran tradition and is open to all. And we got to spend time there teaching series of workshops ranging from Faith and Environment 101 to talking about our Greening Congregations program and our faithful advocacy work, and just spending time building community there. So that was a great treat. And then last but most certainly not least, in the summer, we celebrated a big, significant advocacy win where we sped up the timeline for the phase out of toxic PFAS chemicals in food packaging. So working on PFAS is something that we've been doing over the years. Washington State is a leader on acting on this class of chemicals. It's nonstick chemicals like Teflon that have terrible health impacts and literally never break down in the environment. So we mobilized the Earth Ministry community. We actually comprised 82% of the total comments that were submitted. And as a result, the department decided to speed up the timeline, and they stated stakeholder engagement as the reason for doing so. So now by the end of this year, that PFAS will be on its way out, and it will be starting in 2022 rather than waiting till midway through the year that we start to see more regulation of what our food comes into contact with. So bravo, thank you all. I think it's a really exciting example, a tangible example of our advocacy. You should have seen Maddie and I when we got the email. We don't often get emails from state departments that like make us jump up and shout in a good way. So that's a really exciting win. And then let's look towards fall for our last slide here. So we did have our staffing transition in the autumn. Late summer, we bid farewell to Leanne and had a lovely community get together for that. And then we welcomed a new staff, which has been wonderful. And we've spent time with onboarding and training and sharing our mission and how we live together as Earth Ministry and rethinking ways we live together as Earth Ministry. So I'm really excited to have grown our team. And one of the first things that the new team did together was celebrate the opening of the Shemitah year. So with the Jewish New Year, we marked that it is now 5782, the Shemitah year. We gathered in the sukkah at Congregation Beth Shalom and braved the rain to do so, and wore our masks and stayed distanced. But it was good to be together to mark this important year and to commit to ongoing action throughout. And speaking of action throughout the coming year, we rolled out our multi-faith Greening Congregations Toolkit at that event and have had more conversations about it since. We had an event a couple weeks ago sharing about it on Zoom, but we've expanded our flagship resource of the Greening Congregations Toolkit to have more inclusive language throughout, and then to have some more specific sections to different faith traditions. So starting with Judaism and Christianity, and we plan to continue expanding this resource over time. And last but not least, Maddie has done a ton of great work organizing in Tacoma. And after many years of showing up every 6 months to ask for a renewal of protections against fossil fuels on the tide flats, the Tacoma City Council passed some more long-term protections. And we saw some gains in what was included in that and strengthening to prevent expansion. So now we can focus more on the long-term plan for the future of the port area and the tide flats. And then here we are, in winter. So I thank you all for making this work possible and bringing it to life. And like I said, it's really a joy to get to look back and reflect on all that we've done together, and have that also inform what we will continue to do together. So I hope that for you, it helps feed your soul a little bit to be reminded of all of this work. I think we're so often on to the next thing that we perhaps don't take time to celebrate and just sit with what we have done. So thank you for taking a bit of time to do that with me tonight as a whole group. And now you're going to get to do that together in breakout rooms briefly. So we can stop our screen share. And at last year's year-end gathering, people really liked chatting with each other to hear what others had been up to in the previous year. So we're going to just give you all a bit of time to connect with a few others within the Earth Ministry community. You'll be swept into breakout rooms of 3 or 4 folks for about 10 minutes. And we just encourage you to share one thing that your congregation accomplished that was really exciting to you, one thing that you did, maybe an advocacy action, or an event that you attended that inspired you. So just share a gem from your year with your breakout group. If you want to pop anything in the chat that you were like, wow, that's awesome, feel free to share some takeaways there. You know, again, we could spend all night chatting, I'm sure, about the good work that you're doing individually. You'll hear later about opportunities to do that monthly that Kia is helping us coordinate. But for now, I am going to turn it on over to Nancy, who is going to share a bit about our transition process here at Earth Ministry WAIPL.
Well, hello, everybody. And I'm going to keep an eye on the time so that we can stay on track. First, I want to say thank you to my folks in our chat group. It's wonderful to hear what you do in taking Earth Ministry and bringing it to your church, to the Greening congregation, and then take that conversation and those efforts back out into your community. That is such a powerful contribution. So thank you to everybody who's doing that. So I want to talk a little bit about what my role is and where we are in the leadership transition process. I was brought in as the interim leader, and I've been working with the board of directors and the staff. We have been working on, through thoughtful conversation, about what are the opportunities that we find ourselves in at this moment, in looking at what Earth Ministry has been doing, the wonderful successes we've had to date under Leanne's leadership, and what this moment in time allows us to do in pivoting and looking towards the future, and asking ourselves what we are going to be looking for in our next executive director. So through thoughtful conversation at the board level and the staff level, and then at our retreat, we looked at some of the characteristics and some of the goals that we have for Earth Ministry, and the characteristics of the leadership that we're going to be wanting. And then we established a hiring committee. And on that committee, we have board members, Laura Baumgarten, Rachel, and I don't know if I ever pronounced her last name right, Hextema, Rabbi Zeri, Luke Henkel, Sister Jessica Taylor. And then we have 3 staff members, Kia, Calucci, Maddie, and Jess. I don't know if there's Kia. Okay. And then my role is to be the staff support as we go through the process. We are close to posting a job announcement. We hope that will go out by the end of next week. We're really close. We're really, really close. And we will probably be calling on all of you to help us amplify this job announcement, help us get it out to people for them to take a look at. We're looking at traditional nonprofit, people with traditional nonprofit backgrounds, people with environmental backgrounds, but people who bring a life and people who bring life skill experiences. There are not going to be limits. We want the person who can come in and bring their full faith commitment to Earth Ministry. We ask that they apply. We hope this process to be as transparent as possible, which means we are going to be very thoughtful as we go through the applications. We're going to seek to screen in applicants. We are looking for every way that we can bring as diverse a pool of applicants forward to consider their interests and their talents. We will take those applicants and we'll narrow it down to probably 10 to 15 applicants for interviews. We see ourselves going through at least 2 rounds of interviews, possibly up to 4 rounds for the finalists. At each stage, we will work with the applicants so that they can truly bring their most authentic self forward. And then the board will meet with the finalists and make their decision. We are on a very aggressive timeline. We are asking people to, we're giving priority to applications that get in by January 24th, but by no means we're going to keep it open until we find the right candidate. We will be going through our interview process in February. I know legislative season is up and running, going to be a real busy time, but we're good multitaskers. And we hope to have a decision by the end of February. And hopefully I have a candidate in mind, somebody who can start sometime in March, ideally March 15th, but hey, let's be real, it might be the end of March or the beginning of April. But as you can see, we're excited about where we stand right now and how we're moving forward. My role will be to help facilitate and support the hiring committee as they go through it, and then help to bring the help onboard the next ED, make sure that person has everything they need to know and they can find it, and to set them up with as best as we can. We all have this commitment that they be as successful as they can with this organization. I think what I want you also to hear is that we made a good faith effort to reach out to different stakeholders representing different groups. We wanted to hear from our community partners and stakeholders on what they think we'd want to see in our next ED. We are trying, this is to be as inclusive of a process as we possibly can, and we're excited. I think bottom line is we are excited for moving into this stage, and for the people that for the opportunity to meet some pretty incredible people who, and in that group will be the person who is going to be best to lead Earth Ministry into its next level of success. So with that, I'm going to conclude and other than to say, if you do have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm Nancy at earthministry.org, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. I'll also take your suggestions too. Okay, thank you. So I believe I hand it back off to Jess.
Thank you, Nancy, and we so appreciate your guidance and support, and all of the board's engagement in this process as well. It's been a lot of hangout time with the board, which we so appreciate their gift of time and talent, as well as yours, Nancy. Okay, I've seen a lot of cool stuff showing up in the chat from our breakout rooms. Thank you for sharing. This next portion, we're just going to look forward a bit towards what is in the works for our programs in 2022. So, of course, the state legislative session will begin here in January. This year it is a short session. And we are going to be finalizing our list of legislative priorities, but never fear, we will have opportunities for you to speak up on really important policies. It's looking like there will be a lot around transportation and a good transportation package. There's going to be a really ambitious bill to renew our recycling system here in Washington State, which I know is really important, and congregations could get behind that one. So I'm excited to work on that. Maybe a bill about PFAS chemicals in cosmetics and personal care products. For many years, we've had good success working on toxics through the legislative process. And then some work on climate and energy. One of the bills being put forward by our partners at Front and Centered is looking at clean energy for all, so extending the utility shutoff moratorium to be ongoing, permanent. So we have really exciting policies in the work. Earth Ministry will be updating our webpage regularly. Lindsay is going to be my wing woman, and we will get you all easy opportunities to participate in the legislative process. If you want a primer about faithful advocacy and are like, what does that mean actually? And how do I actually show up in a way that is faith forward and share my story and my values? Well then, save the date to join us on January 11th at 7 p.m. We're going to do a community-wide faithful advocacy training. So this will be an overview of Earth Ministry's approach to advocacy, and we'll touch briefly on our bills, as that will be right after session begins. Also, if you're feeling really pumped about advocacy in this way, send me a note, because I always need a short list of folks that I can go to when something pops up. There's a hearing tomorrow morning, I need someone to testify, who can I call? So don't hesitate to be in touch if you want to get more involved in being a faithful advocate in the legislature. We also have a current advocacy opportunity for you all. So you know us, we just can't get together without having an action. And Maddie will drop it in the chat for you all, but this is an informal comment period on a really groundbreaking policy that we actually passed in the legislature in 2019 called the Safer Products for Washington Act. And so this is an approach to chemical safety reform that is super groundbreaking because it's comprehensive and looking at classes of chemicals. Historically, we've done more individual whack-a-mole with chemicals, and then they just change one molecule and it's a new chemical and they work around it. So this process of implementing, that bill is really important, and they actually have a great, strong report. So we are sending them notes of gratitude and telling them to stay firm and not listen to the industry, which is going to show up and ask them to weaken their draft. So open up that link in your chat, and right when we're done here, you can personalize with your individual story about why you care about toxic chemical reform and safety and well-being as a person of faith. The last thing I want to say before I turn it over is just to keep an eye out for Earth Letter, which will be hitting your inbox shortly. It's a bit later than we wanted it to go out, but now you're going to have good reading over the holidays. Earth Letter is our publication that we put out periodically. It generally focuses in on one theme. So this issue's theme is looking at a decade of faithful advocacy on fossil fuels. And so we've got various reflections from community members therein. I mentioned earlier that Fred Lane from Lummy Nation wrote a really beautiful piece reflecting on the totem pole journey. And I wrote a piece looking back at Earth Ministry's work on the coal export and oil by rail, and now fracked gas fights that we've been very loud and clear in our moral message within. So That will be emailed out, and then if you are a financial supporter of Earth Ministry and you did not opt out for an electronic version, you will be getting one in your, a physical copy in your mailbox. So that is what I have for you all. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Kia, who has taken the lead on congregational work, so I can do more focus in advocacy, which is awesome. And she's going to tell you what's coming up on that end of our programming.
Thank you, Jess. So we've already gone over our launch of the Multi-Faith Greening Congregation Toolkit. And in doing so and keeping it, there's Jess showing it off, in making it more faith neutral and adding a Jewish section, we're allowing more and more faith traditions to be added. So as time goes on, we will continue to bring more people into the Earth Ministry WAIPL community. And in addition to that, we have our colleague connections programs, which is bolstering our support for our congregations. And if you do not already know, we have these meetings the first Thursday of every month, and it's going to be from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m., the next one being January 6th. If you would like to represent your congregation's green team and you haven't already reached out to me, please do just send me an email, kia@earthministry.org. In this group, what we do is we share what we're doing. So you can have resources that other congregations use or have created themselves. There is advice sharing on different types of projects. So if you want new windows, water fountains, you know, the process of planting trees, this is the space to get information and potentially connections, depending on what part of the state you're in and who else is in the group. And it's also just a nice way to watch other green teams grow and move towards their greening goals. So we do want regular engagement. And if you have regular engagement, you can watch people go from being a team of 2 to having an official plan. This is what we're going to do. Planting the trees and watching everything flourish, which is really nice, and brings the community together. And in addition to expanding, you know, our colleague connections programming, we are just expanding into other faiths. So right now, especially, we are seeking to build relationships in the Jewish communities, which is a large part of my job and why I was brought on. And a lot of that happens because of the Shemitah Project Northwest, which Deirdre Gabe, who had to leave early, she's one of our board members, and she is the visionary of this project. And in order to bring in the larger Washington Jewish communities for this Sabbath year for Shemitah, this was created as another space for people to get together. So it already involves 10 Jewish organizations and congregations. And, you know, that's increased since I started only 3 months ago. So it is growing. And what we do is we meet semi-regularly with leaders of these organizations and congregations and share community events. And that is a way for different congregations and people to get involved in others' programming. Maybe there can be learning across the board. One congregation might specialize in something and we can support them in that. And you can go to another event, and it's really nice to see. But as a result, the Earth Ministry greening congregations and green teams seems to be growing. We have 3 synagogues who have expressed interest, and all of those synagogues are partners with Shemitah Project Northwest. So it is very exciting, and we're able to continue to produce events. So coming up in January for Tu B'Shavat and MLK Day, we are going to have an event of sorts. More info to come on that, though. We won't flood you with a ton of things to do and make note of in this event, but watch for emails or announcements on the websites. They will be coming to you. And that's all I have. So I'm going to be turning it back to Maddie for the final portion of our gathering.
Yeah, thanks, Kia. And I put Kia's email in the chat. If you need to reach out to her, you can also find it on our website. And Jessica, thanks for putting in the link to our updated Greening Congregations Toolkit. And if you wanted to see the recording of like the Greening Congregations Toolkit launch that Jessica, I think, had mentioned earlier, that's on our YouTube page, which you can find in the top right corner of our website by clicking on the YouTube icon. And we're going to get it up on the site itself soon. All right, well, I know we're wrapping up our time, and I wanted to ask who loves a good word cloud? I know I love a good word cloud, especially at the end of a gathering like this. So what I'm going to do is we're going to build a word cloud together. And I'm going to let me just put this in the chat really quick. And it's going to be, our word cloud is going to be one word that shows how you're feeling right now at the end of this gathering. And what we're going to do with this word cloud is there's a link that you can click in the chat that will take you to a page where you can put your word in. I know sometimes it's hard to toggle between different windows and to find the Zoom window again. So if you just want to put your word into the Zoom chat, my colleague Lindsay has agreed to put those into the word cloud. And what I'm going to do is share my screen so that we can all see the words come in as we are putting them in. And so this word cloud updates itself as people submit words, which I just find really fun. Hopeful.
Where do we,
the big one.
how do we get it into the big one?
So if you want to, there's a link I put in the chat that you can click on that will take you to a page where you can put your word in. Or if you wanted to just put your word into the Zoom chat, if that's easier, my colleague Lindsay is going to make it into the big word cloud if that's easier. Oh, connected, hopeful, optimistic, supported. Oh, I love it. Tired, yep. I too am tired, but also hopeful. We'll give it just a couple seconds or more as words keep coming in. And what I'm also going to do is take a screenshot of this. Okay. Interconnected, engaged, community, comforted, joy, inspired, energized. Those are all really good words. So thanks y'all for doing that. All right. And one other thing we wanted to mention at the end, and thank you all for being here and for being part of our Earth Ministry community, is we are also in the midst of our year-end fundraising right now. So we often, as most nonprofits do, but especially us as a small nonprofit, we raise a large portion of our individual contributions for our budget in the month of December generally. And we are, doing that once again and really hoping that the contributions line up to meet our budget for this year. And so I'm going to put our donation link in the chat in case anyone feels called to contribute or has been meaning to, but haven't quite gotten around to it. And we really appreciate your support, and we can't do this work without folks, donors like you, especially as a small grassroots nonprofit. And we've really seen that, we've been able to expand our staff this year as a direct result of our community support, and we want to keep going in that direction, especially as we look to hire a new permanent executive director. Okay. Well, I know we're just about at the time. I want to pass it over to my colleague Dorothy, who's going to share a wonderful closing prayer. Oh, Jessica, it looks like Jessica wants to say something. Go for it.
Before Dorothy closes us, can I be that person that says, would everybody look at the camera and smile for a screenshot? I'm like that person that's like, wait, we have to take a group photo. Come on. Okay, I'm gonna get a few here. So hold your smile. Think of all the cheese. Let me get a couple more. And I gotta toggle the screen too. Okay, let me get page 2 because there's so many of us. Here we are. Okay, thank you for amusing me and doing that.
Okay, we'll just take a moment now as we close our wonderful evening together for a prayer for our earth. This is an adapted prayer from Laudato Si. Loving Creator, you are present in the whole universe and in the smallest of your creatures. You embrace with your tenderness all that exists. Pour out upon us the power of your love, that we may protect life and beauty. Fill us with peace, that we may live as brothers and sisters, harming no one. Help us to rescue the abandoned and forgotten of this earth, so precious in your eyes. Bring healing to our lives, that we may protect the world and not prey on it, that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Touch the hearts of those who look only for gain at the expense of the poor and the earth. Teach us to discover the worth of each living thing, to be filled with awe and contemplation, to recognize that we are profoundly united with every creature as we journey towards your infinite light. We thank you for being with us each day. Encourage us in our struggle for justice, love, and peace. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody, for spending time with us this evening, and blessings of the season to you each.